This is absurd. I can't.
That's
I'm
so
sorry
wrong.
for everybody that has Gus Edwards. I had Gus Edwards for this week alone, inside my top 15. Like I was playing in seasonal, and I know they're not on this slate, but I was playing Gus Edwards over Saquon Barkley.
We are back. It's the Joe Holka Show presented by FanDuel. Week 1 locks of the week, position by position. These are the DFS plays that we absolutely have to have exposure to this week. So make sure you stick around until the end. We're actually going to be building a FanDuel lineup live on stream. That team's also going to be entered into the Listener League. So make sure you get in that contest before it fills. If you're watching this right now, it is possible that that is very close to filling because it's already at about 400 of 500 people. So make sure you guys go to FanDuel.com/Holka if you want into the Listener League, but also it will give you access to the best deposit bonus available. It's rake free, huge prizes. Check out my Twitter if you want to see more info on that. But really pumped to build a lineup, not just with me. I say we always because I'm pretty fired up for this one. We're doing things a little bit different with Jake this week, or this year, I should say. But you guys know him, Jake Ciely from The Athletic, from now Bets TV as well. He's at All In Kid on Twitter. Jake, how are you, man? You ready for week 1? It came fast, but we're here.
Yeah, I am ready. Yeah, a little bit different this year. No first look. We get to just build lineups instead, but found a way to make this happen. It was one of my favorite shows, so glad that we're doing it again.
Busy guy, man. I appreciate the time as always. And what people probably don't realize is Jake used to like just absolutely smash on FanDuel. We used to do a show with me, Jake, and Chris Meany back in the day with the footballers. And for whatever reason, the FanDuel lineups were always like just fire from Jake. So hopefully we can run that thing back, man. You remember that? Like I know you've kind of gone back and forth a little bit, but I know you're playing both sides.
Yeah, it's actually FanDuel for the past since we're doing that show. So what, 2.5, 3 years?
Yeah.
I don't know what it is. Whatever came out, I guess the pricing always felt a little bit more softer on the lower end players. And I think, if you look at DraftKings, maybe they're doing that intentionally. But by the way, the other thing I did notice, you're at 92 likes. We have to get you to 100 before I'm off the show, or I'm just going to stay for the rest of the night.
You have to literally yell at the chat for them to drop likes on videos, I find. So we're at 90, or already we're creeping up. 93. Should we just refuse to do the show until we get to forget the end of it? Like smash that. Like we're gonna be live for a little bit longer. No, man.
Oh, there we go. Boom, over 100, just like that. Thank you. Look,
you just have to yell at them, man. Like the chat's great, but you also have to like kind of guide them along a little bit, man. It's a 4-hour live stream. Like some people just sit there on their phones and not even hit that like button.
People will never do it again though, because I just said look at the power I have, so I just ruined that. I was making a joke and everything. That's Jake being Jake. So there you go.
Yeah, there was a show last year with Peter where he literally got up and sat on the couch until we hit like I can't remember how many likes it was. It took like 5 full minutes, so maybe like people like you a lot more. That's why we got to that mark a lot quicker.
That's not the case.
Just no Beowulf, man. That's all I ask. You got us kicked off of one show.
No, don't worry. He's a backup at best now at this point of his career. So I don't think we ever have to talk about, for everybody that doesn't know, Minshew again.
You put that evil on us, man.
His grandfather wanted his dad to name Gardner Minshew. He wanted to name him Beowulf Minshew. But by the way, he's not even the second. The dad just likes Gardner Minshew the second. Go look up that story. It's awesome.
Oh my God. All right. So this is going to be a fun segment to do with you, Jake. I know you're focused on kind of like getting us to that optimal lineup anyway. So perfect segment for you going through our locks of the week. We're going to have a couple guys to talk about at each position and a little bit. If you aren't on board with one of them, we'll give you another one to go with as well. So let's just jump right into it. Your lock of the week at quarterback. Let's go with the first one. We were just talking about him with Reeves, Kyler Murray. So this game is super interesting overall, but we have the salary to get up to these guys this week. So I assume that has a little bit to do with it.
That does. I was looking at some of the lower priced options, and after what you and I have talked about throughout the years is I usually start with running back, wide receiver. I usually play with wide receiver at the same time at quarterback because you want to get the exposure to hit both on the same team. You want to stack.
Right.
But I usually try to work backwards from there. But because of the pricing in week 1, I was able to get to that top tier that you usually don't go too far into. But there's a appeal here from 2 different areas. Is one, and we know it's one of the highest over-unders, but we know how efficient Tennessee is. So the best part about facing Tennessee in fantasy DFS in general is not just that they push the scores, but they do it quickly, which puts the ball in the other team's hands quite often to try to either keep pace or just they get more plays. On top of it, the second part I was going to say is Kyler Murray's been vocal about wanting to pass more this year. And I know we don't like that for fantasy, but at the same time, it's not like he's going to go from rushing for 800 yards and 11 touchdowns to 400 and cut it in half. He's still going to run, but he wants to pass more. You've seen this team. They brought in AJ Green. Who knows what's left with him? They're finding the way to get the ball in Rondell Moore's hands. Christian Kirk is trying to, I guess, salvage his career at this point because he hasn't really lived up to expectations. But he wants to throw more on top of his running already. So I could see Kyler Murray being a top 3 scorer this week. Actually, my projections came out. He's like 0.1 behind Josh Allen.
Yeah, I think Reeves has him as his number 1 quarterback as well. So you guys are in step. Like we talked about it on the Stacks video. So if you haven't checked out the Stacks video, definitely do that. But exactly what you just said, these Tennessee games last year, like not only was their defense terrible, so they were giving up a lot of points quickly, they were scoring a lot on the other end. And these like big plays from AJ Brown after the catch, and then obviously the big dog, like it just really helps the other side of these offenses as well. So there's a ton to like here. It's going to be a popular game, but for good reason. So Kyler Murray at 8,400, our quarterback lock of the week. Love that. Definitely want to touch on your secondary guy. If you can't quite get up to Kyler at 8,400, Russell Wilson at 7,800. The NFC West, I talked about it with Sig earlier this week, has to be the best division in football. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I would agree. If not, it's in contention for the AFC North. It would be between the two. But for fantasy purposes, I'd much more attractive to go to the AFC, despite there's plenty there. But Cleveland more run heavy. Pittsburgh doesn't have the quarterback situation we like. So all that's being said, you can see why. But for fantasy, yeah, Russell Wilson, we know the narrative. We know the first half he was allowed to cook, and maybe hopefully we don't have to hear that this year in the second half of what happened. But you have a new offensive coordinator coming in, planning to pass a little bit more, potentially going 3 wide more. And even if Russell Wilson was just Russell Wilson for first half last year, and DK Metcalf offsets that inconsistency from the second half and just becomes the more complete from day 1 to the end of the season receiver. If you need the savings, 600 doesn't sound like a lot, but at quarterback, it does open up some of the exposure at wide receiver. And then if you pair it up, which what I'm doing when we talk about, we'll get to wide receiver. I think who one of my wide receivers is going to be if I have Murray. Well, you also get the savings from him to DK Metcalf to do that. So you double tap the savings there if you want to go somewhere else.
Yeah, I like that. I agree with you, like that we want that rushing ability. Both of these guys, like if there ends up being more passing, that's a great thing. But I think both of these guys still set up really well for FanDuel scoring. So I'm excited about playing more Kyler this year. Just these elite quarterbacks, man. We talked about it a ton on the first look last year. There's just, I mean, it gets to that point where there is a tier gap between them, in my opinion. And maybe there was a little bit of an argument last year to where like some of these like super elite running backs weren't available. We had no CMC, we had no Saquon Barkley, both jerseys that I had back in the back of the studio last year, believe it or not. But so maybe that's why we saw like pricing be a little bit softer and be able to get up to some of these quarterbacks. But I honestly think it's going to take a few years before DraftKings, FanDuel, these sites really start to figure out how valuable these quarterbacks are. And then maybe the pricing comes down across the board. But right now, like there just seems to be a clear tier gap in ceiling. And that's what we're talking about at the position. So I like both of those calls at quarterback. Let's just go to wide receiver next, Jake, because you mentioned DeAndre Hopkins, like pairing him with Kyler Murray, I would imagine is going to be a popular stack, but man, it's really hard to I guess knock Nuke at this point.
No, it really is. And I know there'll be some, I think that some people might hesitate because the cost at both, you have to pay up so high for Murray, you have to pay up so high for Hopkins being the 3rd highest priced wide receiver. And then you'll have, and I'm putting this all out there to say why I'm not scared of it is because these people create these own stories in their head. It'll be like, oh, Hopkins aren't really playing the preseason. I want to see it first. And I want to, so that's where you kind of go. And then, well, maybe I'll play a Matt Ryan, Calvin Ridley. Maybe I'll go Kirk Cousins and Justin Jefferson, which is fine, but what have we been talking about? We just came from quarterbacks. We want the rushing upside. So those people doing that, they need to hit like 350 and 4 touchdowns with their quarterbacks to match our quarterbacks at Kyler Murray and Russell Wilson. So I wouldn't advise going that route. So that's why I would say I wouldn't be too afraid of this being a popular stack. And there's other ways to diversify your lineup. But Hopkins going against Tennessee, the one thing we need to talk about for Tennessee too is Dory Jackson just walked in free agency to the Giants. And that question, they brought in pieces and they're trying to reconfigure their defense, but there's still questions of like, is this going to even be a top 10 defense? No. Is it going to even be top 20? Like, could it definitely be bottom 10 again? And Hopkins, we see, could just dominate this game. And if Kyler Murray throws for multiple touchdowns, there's a good chance he catches 2 of them.
Yeah, that was going to be my question. Like, we're not scared of AJ Green just like coming in here and just completely taking away a massive target share from Nuke. I guess like the one thing that you could say is now they have a little bit more, I guess, young talent in this wide receiver core. So if we wanted to go that direction, now there's no Larry Fitzgerald, a little bit of a cheaper option. Like, I think I guess, what do you think about like AJ Green in this spot? Is he just going to be a touchdown guy, which I mean is valuable on FanDuel at his price, but I just personally don't know if I can pull the trigger on this guy in DFS, at least in week 1.
Here's what it comes down to. Unless, let's be real, unless he's sandbagging in the preseason, which is potentially possible. Like, he could just be, remember Michael Strahan at the end of his career, he wasn't even showing up for training camp in the preseason. He showed up week 1. He's like, I'm ready to go. Yep. Again, that's defensive end versus wide receiver. But all I'm saying is, like, unless he is sandbagging, AJ Green did not look like pre-injury AJ Green. He looked like the Cincinnati Bengals. He looked like that situation where it's like, I don't think he's got a whole lot left here. So if AJ Green is what we've seen, and Christian Kirk is still struggling to play outside, if he's forced outside instead of the slot, and Rondell Moore gets on the field, maybe. But I think that Rondell Moore might not even get on the field, and if the touchdowns do go to AJ Green, then Kyler Murray's getting them anyway. So I'm not really that concerned. And the other part of it too is, the only concern of touchdowns I'd really have is James Conner when healthy, which he is for right now. But because the way this game profiles, and against the Titans, as we're talking about, and pushing the scoring and opportunity pace for them, is more passing leads to Chase Edmonds. And even if that running back has the ball in his hands, it's likely coming on a pass versus a run, and you don't have to worry about Connor stealing as much. So that's why, again, I have a little bit more confidence in Murray's touchdown potential in this kind of matchup.
So if you can't afford Nuke and we want to pay down, let's talk a little bit about Corey Davis, 5,800. I think that some people are going to look at this Jets team and be like, we've done this before. Denzel Mims last year, these like unrealized air yards, all of that stuff, but different quarterback. But let's be real, this offense is going to be completely different without Adam Gase back there, right? So Corey Davis, he's a fine player. But he's someone that I think can come in here and be a factor right away. 5,800 for a guy like this in an offensive situation where against Carolina, not a big total here, but I'm kind of with you. I like the Corey Davis play a lot, but tell us why you like him.
Yeah, so I actually think this is one of the sneakier overs for the week too.
Nice.
This game in general. The Carolina is another defense you can have questions about too, and that was even before now 2 years ago when James Bradbury also left for the Giants. Which, by the way, sneaky secondary of the Giants. Just to point that out there. Not that I'm that concerned, but
really,
I hinted on something that's coming up later there.
Okay,
but anyway. Corey Davis, like I want to say this because I a lot of times when I talk to you, Joe, is like I preface that like I had thoughts and I changed my thoughts. And so this is one of the situations where I initially 2 months ago had concerns about Corey Davis. I said, did he benefit from playing alongside AJ Brown? Can he be a number one for a team? Can he face the number one corners and defensive attention? And he's got a rookie quarterback and Jamison Crowder and Elijah Moore, who I love as a talent, and everything that's on this team. And then we saw the preseason, and we saw an instant connection. We saw the fact that Zach Wilson was targeting him 60% of the time, which is not a number anybody's ever going to get to because 30% is an absurd number. 25% is a glorious number for fantasy. But that's what I'm saying is even if he just gets 25%, and it's 25% from Zach Wilson, like you want most any wide receivers. What do we want in fantasy, Joe? You know this. We want volume. And it doesn't matter if it's quarterback, running back, wide receiver, tight end. We want volume. If you're going to give me a 25% target share, I'm going to take it every single day. And that might be cutting Corey Davis low with that connection that they have. Crowder's got that, the core muscle injury that he's not even 100%, doesn't even know if he's going to play. Denzel Mims is, I never liked Denzel Mims, and now he's like third string. So he
just doesn't fit the scheme at all. Like, you know what I mean?
No, like, who else is he going to throw to?
Elijah Moore, who a lot of people are probably going to throw the Hail Mary on in week 1, and then no one's going to play him in week 2.
There is no Jamison Crowder.
Yeah,
exactly. If there's no Jamison Crowder, Elijah Moore is going to be super popular. I will say, if you want to, I know we're not talking tight ends yet, and he's not my tight end pick, and this is why I'm just going to throw it out to you because we're talking about this game. But if you want that dart throw, Tyler Kroft. Probably never coming off the field.
Hey. Condensed target share. Like, I mean, we saw it. Like, this is like an offense that actually did look pretty good in the preseason, right? So Zach Wilson, someone that I had question marks about, but man, you see why he was drafted where he was. He's poised. He gets the ball out quick. Like he looked really good. So I'm willing to, I guess, be victory lapping all my best ball shares of this team late. But we'll see, man. It's going to be an interesting one. Let's move over to running back, though. Najee Harris, another guy that we've been talking about just, I mean, the entire offseason, right? Like we can see these Pittsburgh running backs come in and just be handed the entire keys to this backfield right away. So Najee Harris, he's just too cheap on FanDuel. So tell us why he's your running back lock of the week. All those things.
Easiest one. I saw the easy. Yes, whoever's at FanDuel is buying into the rookie narrative or whatever it might be.
Yep.
You know, let's go back to Ezekiel Elliott. Let's go back to Saquon Barkley. Let's go back to rookies who are drafted in the first round and even second round sometimes, but walking into situations where they're going to be the bell cow from day one. We've seen this, as you mentioned. Mike Tomlin wants a bell cow running back. That's who Mike Tomlin is. To name drop, I'm not doing it intentionally, but he's from Hampton Roads. He has this Hampton Roads Football Foundation that I've been to. He's admitted to me he loves the bell cow. He loves to have his guy. When I talked to him at that time, I was talking about James Conner, and James Conner was his guy until hurt. You just have Najee Harris, the talent that he is, that can 3-down running back, that can catch passes at 6,500, who's going to see probably. Joe, if I said top 5 running back snap percentage, we know that Christian McCaffrey is one of the only ones that gets into the 90%. But you know who did that before him as well? Le'Veon Bell. If I said top 5 snap percentage, would you be shocked with Najee Harris? Because I wouldn't be. The only concern that people have is the offensive line.
Right.
Just last year, James Robinson and David Montgomery, top 10 running backs on bottom offensive lines. It doesn't matter when you get volume like this.
That's why always like we say volume is king at running back. Like it's just like cliche at this point to say that, but honestly, it's really like the only thing that matters for DFS, right? So like, yes, this offensive line is an issue for the offense. Maybe there's like touchdown I guess stuff that could be drawn from that, but from a volume perspective, like it's all going to kind of fall into the same spot. And if he's just going to get more catches because Ben is just checking it down, like that's fine. Even on FanDuel, I'll take those points. So I'm super interested in Najee. He's just way too cheap, man.
We need a RotoWear shirt. We need a volume is king RotoWear shirt. Speaking of shirts, thank you, Lee. Nobody's the Darkwing Duck as an actual real duck shirt like that. Thank you for pointing that out and noticing that. I appreciate it. We're at 124. Can we get the 150 mark? Is 150 your highest? Can we get 150 likes?
Definitely this year, show number 2, my man. So definitely. Let's talk about, I mean, should we do it every single week? We didn't get to do it enough last year, but I will give everyone permission to play Christian McCaffrey. Like, what would let's frame it this way. His price right now, I mean, 10-4 on FanDuel. What price would CMC have to be for you to be like, no, too expensive?
Not
you said it before we got on.
Well, I said 12 as a joke.
Okay.
I think 11, I would start thinking about it.
Okay.
And 11, depending on what else is there. You know, I know, look, the appeal is going to come down to, and people are going to see Derrick Henry for 1,500 cheaper. And Derrick Henry, of course, yes, he can get 200 yards in any given game. Actually, this is seasonal, but somebody's like, I play in a league where we get 200-yard bonuses. Who are the players I should target? I said,
what?
Derrick Henry, the end. Like, it's only happened.
There's a one-person list.
I think the past 5 years, it's happened like 9 or 10 times, and it's mostly Derrick Henry. So that would be the only one. But I just said it with Christian McCaffrey, 97% of the snaps, Joe, 97. That's an absurd number. He missed one snap. One. Like, I just don't know how you don't do it until it gets cost prohibitive. And if it was week 2 and some of the pricing was adjusted and we couldn't get the savings of Corey Davis, we couldn't get the savings of Michael Pittman Jr. I know we're not talking about him, but to go back to that Seattle game and the fact that there's no T.Y. Hilton, like if you couldn't get those kind of savings, I could see it, but it would have to be at least 11 before I even thought about it.
Yeah, I think that's the main thing, right? Is we can't afford them. So I think you just didn't want to come on your first locks of the week show and be like, Christian McCaffrey is my lock of the week at running back. Like I get it. I think that it's totally fine. And he's gonna. I mean, you're not above that, Jake. But I'm glad that you gave us another name. Both these guys, pretty clear. Standout plays at running back. So let's move on to tight end. This is an interesting one because normally we're trying to either pay all the way up or pay all the way down at tight end. Mike Gesicki, your tight end lock of the week. Tell us why.
Yeah, and that's why I threw out the Tyler Kroft if you want to pay all the way down.
Yeah.
If you're doing Christian McCaffrey, Kyler Murray, DeAndre Hopkins, even if you switch over to Russell Wilson, DK Metcalf, you're not getting a Kelsey. That's the problem. Kittle is intriguing, but I'm kind of staying away from San Francisco passing. because I just think they could be in control by the third quarter, like halftime, and it's just running Mostert and Sermon down their throats. I think Mostert and Sermon are both intriguing, like a big tournament play. I'm not really looking to go that way, but point being made. I love Pitts more than probably most. I've had arguments about this with people in seasonal, all that type of stuff. And what we saw from the one opportunity was that he actually lined up at wideout, which is what we love to see, but everybody's got that rookie narrative. So if you want to go a little bit cheaper, it would probably be Pitts if I could fit him in. I couldn't fit him in. And the Gesicki thing intrigues me for this 1 week, especially because of 2 reasons. I've been off Gesicki, seasonal. I've been very off Gesicki because of Jalen Waddle and because of Will Fuller, Devontae Parker, and Jalen Waddle. And that Gesicki last year had one of the top 5 in opportunity shares for tight ends and top 5 running routes out of the slot as a tight end, and still was barely a top 10 tight end. But I say all that to say, week 1, Waddle can play more outside. You see a 3 wide with Gesicki, and there's no Stephon Gilmore. I know he's corner, but that secondary is just weakened even more. There's an opportunity where, like, a lot of people are going to be off this, and that's kind of why he's my lock. Is a lot of people are off this because Tua's facing Belichick. Belichick stops everybody, especially inexperienced quarterbacks, and that's kind of why he's my lock. Is because I feel like his ownership is going to be like 1%.
Yeah, I like the call. I mean, Will Fuller out also, so like there's targets to go around here. This is an interesting. I'll say this: my negative on the side of this pick is that it's a really low total. That's one of the things that we are focused on a little bit at the tight end position. But 5,500 on FanDuel, like I got no problem with that. Just to get in some of these other guys that we've talked about. Say you want to get Nuke in your lineup, you want to get CMC in your lineup, and you want to pay up at quarterback, right? Like you're going to have to find a way to save salary, and tight end is one of those ones that I'm never going to knock you on for doing that. So from a defense perspective, your lock of the week, the Denver Broncos. Very interesting. I mean, this team is literally a quarterback away from being a Super Bowl contender, right?
Pretty much.
Yeah.
So the Denver Broncos defense is still better. They're still really good. It's better than people realize because they had a little bit of a downturn. Then when they lost some pieces, injuries, people retiring, getting up there in age, still a very good defense. Still can get after the quarterback. And what can't the Giants do? They can't protect Daniel Jones. Joe, it's Thursday while we're doing this show, which, by the way, 21 more likes to get to 150. Let's get to 150. Come on.
Let's do it.
But anyway, it's Thursday, and the reports from Giants camp is they still aren't sure what the starting offensive line lineup is. Like, the report came out this morning. It sounds like Nate Solder is going to be at right tackle and Matt Pert's going to be on the bench. Like, it's Thursday, and they don't know what their lineup's going to be.
It's rough.
This is so egregious in the NFL. And if you watch the preseason, even before Daniel Jones got in there on the 3rd game and was still running for his life, just trying to buy time, it's opening. It's basically Daniel Jones' potential for interceptions, sacks, and everything are on top of this. And that's even before we get to Kenny Golladay, maybe not even playing. And if he is, he's not 100%. I'm all over the Denver Broncos. They are a top 5 defense for me. And I can see the case for being right up there. If we love San Francisco against Detroit, why don't we love Denver against the Giants? And I know you didn't ask, but this is where I was hinting to this game before. I am stacking this game with Javonte Williams in my flex spot.
Ooh. All right. Well, here's the thing, Jake. Before we get into building our team, some breaking news here. Gus Edwards, season-ending ACL injury. We got instant reaction from Jake Ciely. What are your thoughts?
Are you serious?
Yeah, Schefter bomb just now, 2 minutes ago.
Oh, my God.
It's not great.
Well, thank you for giving me 3 hours of work right before Thursday Night Football.
It's not great. Not great, man. You feel for the guy, right? Like someone that, like, at every stage, every opportunity, he's just crushed, and now he's finally the guy, and he's gonna get hurt in practice. That's so rough, man. Like from a real person perspective, like I feel so bad.
Talking practice.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, obviously Le'Veon Bell probably gets activated, but I still think they have I still think Tyson Williams will be their first choice up this week. But, there's still a chance that Latavius Murray's out there too. Maybe they bring him in because right now it's Tyson Williams, Trenton Cannon, cast off from the Jets, and Le'Veon Bell hasn't been activated yet. So it'll be interesting to see what they go into on Sunday. Well, I guess it's the Monday night game, right? Or Sunday night game.
I'm just distracted, man, because
my mind is just like freaking like blown.
I might have even undersold this, man. Like apparently back-to-back plays, Marcus Peters and Gus Edwards go down. We don't have any Marcus Peters news yet, I don't think, but it looks like both of these guys have a knee injury. Back-to-back plays of practice. Wow.
This is absurd. This is absurd. I can't.
That's
I'm
so
sorry
rough.
for everybody that has Gus Edwards. I had Gus Edwards for this week alone, inside my top 15. Like I was playing in seasonal, and I know they're not on this slate, but I was playing Gus Edwards over Saquon Barkley.
Man. Yeah, I don't know. There's not a whole lot to say about like just really, really tough situation, man. Tough for the Ravens also, but yeah, maybe good for my Latavius Murray best ball shares. Let's keep our fingers crossed with that. But all right, man.
Or
Let's
go grab Latavius Murray if he's out there real quick,
yeah.
just in case he just comes to this team and all of a sudden he's the lead again. Le'Veon Bell last year didn't look good with the Chiefs offense. I know it's different. Maybe he succeeds here, but he didn't look good. Again, Tyson Williams, but I wouldn't be surprised. They have to probably do something at this point.
Yeah, they're gonna have to. All right, let's build a lineup. Like we talked about before, this is the Joe Holka Show Listener League. Your lineup, TJ Hernandez lineup, and Rich Rebar's lineup is going to go into this contest every single week. We're going to get a leaderboard going. We're going to get all of that. It's only a 500-person field size. It's always going to be rake free. FanDuel.com/Holka if you want to get in this thing. It is the best contest on FanDuel. It's not even close. So Jake, let's fly through this lineup here. We got about 5 minutes left. But I would imagine that in a 500-person field size, probably don't need to get too crazy. So I'll kind of direct you along the way. But are you going to start with a stack, or are you just going to start putting in like your lock, like your value play first? I'm always curious, like the order of how people typically do this. Reeves went full stack first.
Like I said, I go with a few of my locks and then come back to what stack I like the best out of what I can work in there. So for me, if like I was doing this construction, my first two, I'll tell you, when I started building my team, the first two things I did was put in McCaffrey and Harris.
I like it. This is actually great. So last year when we were doing the first look, like all we had to hear about was your shell lineup. But now we're on a Thursday. We get to actually see where you're at on these teams even a little bit later in the week, man. So I love that. All right, so we're locking in running back right away. Scott, 6,500 for Najee still seems absurd.
It's just stupid. It's just stupid.
All right, so
can we get you 15 more thumbs up or can we at least send them out to Gus Edwards? Thumbs up for
thumbs up, smash that like button for Gus Edwards. Good God, like that's so rough, so rough. I can't believe that happened on stream.
I feel so bad for that team. That's ridiculous.
All right, so we got your two lock running backs in. What are we doing here? Small field. Are we gonna stack?
We're doing Murray Hopkins, absolutely.
Murray Hopkins. Yeah, you don't know what Reeves had at this point too, which is interesting to me. Kyler.
Oh yeah, because I didn't watch. I was too busy updating my projections.
You're too busy doing your job. Yeah, exactly. All right, so this is a pretty nice core, man. 5,300 the rest of the way. We're gonna have to find some value here.
Oh, it gets pretty easy from here, because Corey Davis is another lock there.
All right. Corey Davis. We're really going with a lot of the locks of the week, which I love. This is like so your brand.
I mean, it's 100% my brand.
I'm and a little mini stack with McCaffrey. I like it.
Yeah, the little mini stack. I'm seeing if I could. I'm changing one of my wide receivers I initially had in there. We'll come back to him.
Okay.
Ooh, I think I'm gonna have to change that. Ooh, yeah. All right. So, we got Corey Davis in there. I told you I'm doing the Javonte Williams Denver Broncos defense and doing the correlation between the running back and the defense there.
Broncos is 4,100, and then we're gonna go Javonte and the flex.
Yeah.
Perfect. That gives you a little bit of late swap equity as well, which I like.
Good I was thinking Washington was intriguing, but to get, that was if they were cheaper. They're priced respectively. Washington is one of the best defenses in the NFL, but against Herbert, that's just not the week that I want to do it.
And I'm going to keep teasing this though, because we have another segment coming up next with TJ Hernandez. Is going to be the pivots of the week or the leverage plays of the week, and just what you said, Jake. Like Washington is actually his defense. For anyone watching this video, go watch that video next. 2 slots left, and we'll get you out of here.
Yes. All right. So you tell me. You can make the pick. You can make the choice. Initially, I had Michael Pittman and Mike Gesicki.
Okay.
If I don't do that, I can go to Tyler Kroft and get Brandon Cooks in instead of Michael Pittman.
Okay. Man, who's going to catch balls in Houston besides Cooks, though, right? Like that's the thing. And I love Pittman this week too. Like he's a guy we talked about a ton.
Everybody's crapping on the quarterback situation. And I'm like, well, let's remember how many apologies we made for Allen Robinson for years and years and years and years. And here's the thing, Joe. 140 targets over the entire season. He only catches 50, that being Brandon Cooks. For 70 catches for Brandon Cooks still means over 1,000 yards and 6 or 7 touchdowns. I think the Croft Cooks feels more differentiated. I think people are going to be on Pittman.
Let's do that. And for, I guess, no other reason than this is a tournament. So it gives you a little bit more of a stack here. We'll have CMC, Corey Davis, and Tyler Croft in that game, which I like. Just basically Brandon Cooks one-off, which is totally fine. I like the Cooks leverage that you're going to get off of a lot of people that are probably going to play the Jacksonville side of that game. So this feels pretty good, man. I think this is a well-executed team for a small field tournament.